You are listening to Comedy Club for Kids presents Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense, Radio Nonsense. Hello and welcome to Radio Nonsense, the official Comedy Club for Kids podcast that's suitable for all ages from 2 and everything in between. I'm very much Tiernan, and look, since last week's podcast, I have received so many messages that are all about exactly the same thing. Let me just read some of these to you. This one, we've got who is this Pod Goblin you mention? Why have you not mentioned them before? That's from Gordon Snake, The Forest, aged 12 snake years and 1 weasel year. And then we've got, oi, 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 why have you never said about this Pod Goblin before, eh? Why have we never heard about him before? And that's from Susan Police, who lives in the bin and is 5 minutes old. And then there's this one, Moose, Pod Goblin, Moose. And that's from 578NFP, the robot moose who's based in Luxembourg. And of course, there's this one, which is Excusez-moi, Monsieur Duyeb, qui est le Pod Goblin? Est-ce que qui est le met ton petit chapeau? And that's from Mademoiselle Legumes, who is 70 raisons ans. And look, I'm just pulling out this random one from the big pile that all asked me the same thing. Who am I? I've never heard of me till you mentioned me last week. Love Pod Goblin from the United Mushrooms. And look, it's a good question. It's so good. In fact, I've even got this one. It's exactly these sorts of revelations about Podgoblins that you bring up out of nowhere with no warning or memos to the office, and that's why I'm taking another year off sick. From Linda. Linda! Oh, I guess she's off sick. Well, if you remember, I did mention last week when talking about how you review this show that one way to do it was to whisper what you wanted to say and how many stars you wanted to give us to the Pod Goblin on the 12th of Jultember at 4:94pm. But it was quite tricky and he always picks his nose, so it wasn't worth it, and you could just go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Amazon Music or whatever. And look, I get it. That's a lot of new information for any of you who weren't aware that there was a Pod Goblin at all. And I'm sorry, right? I thought everybody knew about the Pod Goblin, but of course, it's just because I'm super old, and I remember all the olden ways that we had to do things before the internet existed. Because you can now get your podcasts from all these different podcast sites and download them straight to your phones and your tablets and your robot ears, but back then, it was very different, right? To get a podcast or to review one, you had to wait for the Pod Goblin to visit, and he'd have a small sack on his back that for 1 gold tomato you could have a look through. And he'd pick his nose, and you'd pick a podcast you like, and then you take that home to play on your podcastable contraption powered by 16 gerbils and raw cabbage juice, and that would be all you could listen to until the Pod Goblin came back round again 2 to 3 decades later. And that's just how all things were back then, you know? It was very different. You couldn't just stream music. You had to get it from an actual music stream that was wet, and the tuna fish would carry a song on their backs, and if you didn't grab it as they went past or catch them in a net, then you weren't allowed to hear music till Christmas. Oh, and don't even get me started on TV shows. You can watch whatever you like on the telly nowadays, but when I was small, because I drank that shrinking potion, which was a mistake, so I thought it was some juice. Well, when I was small, the TV wagon would only come through the village during the screaming of the horses, and the little telly lady would wring her knees and yell out all the shows she had as she went past. Ring, 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 I've got 2 spring watches, 1 Paw Patrol, and a bucket of 10 o'clock newses. First come, first serve. And you had to ask your soggy earwax bins, grown-ups, for a fresh donkey's egg to pay for one before annoying Kevin down the street bought all of them in one go, which he always did. He was so annoying. So, as you can see, things are very different, and no one really needs the Pod Goblin's services anymore, but I try to visit him just to kind of, make him feel busy, make him feel wanted. It's not nice when suddenly the job you do, isn't needed anymore. So yeah, that's what that was about. And sadly, it's nowhere near the 12th of Jultember at 4:94pm. Otherwise, I'd introduce him to you, but he's not going to be around because that's the only time that he is around. So I'm very sorry about that, but you were all right to ask. And next time I just mention these sort of things flippantly on the show, you should definitely write in and ask what on earth I'm talking about. So I just forget that not everyone understands, not everyone is as old as me. And of course, you can also write in to me about anything else you like to, whether it's jokes you want to send in or an intro for the show or questions you'd like me to find a guest to answer for you. And you can do that by asking your soggy earwax bins, I'm sorry, grown-ups, to help you email me at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. And don't forget to check out our live shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk. I'm doing a few of the ones coming up over the next few months, so do come along and shout at me if I'm at a theatre near you. And you can grab our t-shirts and book at comedyclubforkids.store. And you didn't even want to know what it was like trying to buy a t-shirt or book in the old days, let alone having to wait for the Comedy Club for Kids show eagle to sick up a full live show into your area, which it would only do on a glum day where the temperature was banana degrees. It took ages. I've got a big ask for you all this week, please, listeners, which is that obviously, in the old days, to let everyone know about a podcast, you'd ask Jeffrey, the man with the big drum, to bang on about it in the village centre, and word would be spread in no time. Though, of course, then they couldn't get the podcast because the Pod Goblin, they had to wait till the 12th of Jiltember. Anyway, but enough of that, because that's not how it works anymore. And I just wondered that if you enjoy this show and it makes you laugh, with all its important history lessons and all its educational value, then please could you tell your friends to listen too, because maybe they would like it. Maybe tell everyone in your class, tell all the people that you like talking to that they should give it a try too. Maybe also tell your family, tell your pets, tell people in the supermarket, tell the people on TV. I don't know, just call up random numbers on the phone, tell them as well. Anyone you can think of, really. The more people that listen, the more of these shows we can do. So just spread the word. That would be very, very nice. Obviously, if you know anyone who's 100 years old, don't tell them about the podcast, as they'll just get upset when they aren't allowed to tune in. So thanks for that. And I've just realised, while waffling on, that in them old and timey rhymes, you could totally trick the Pod Goblin into coming early by just changing the date on your calendar, because he's an idiot and he didn't sort of realise, doesn't know how calendars work. So I reckon I can try that again, I'm going to have a little go while you all listen to this most importantest bit.
Easy mistake for me to make because, back in my day, we didn't have rain.
Returning to the podcast once again is the mighty Ed Petrie, a.k.a. Ned Fleetree, a.k.a. Skinny Bojangles Spatula Whiz, the fastest milk drinker in the biz, and as our Ue-speaking listeners will, of course, know you, Nutsua Sianana Medea Aduk So Ne Nukuu Dizzy. But of course, Ed, you are most famous for inventing the YouTube trend of Wyatt Burp, which encouraged people to dress up like a famous cowboy and then burp, for revolutionising ice cream by inventing a It Might Be Wasps flavour, and perhaps your most legendary feat, which was winning the Ultimate World Championship Staring Contest 2012 to 2017 by constantly beating the eyes on a potato. Ed, it's great to have you back on the show. How are you?
Yeehaw!
Wow!
I'm very well.
Wow.
You got it, as you can see.
It's amazing. And what I like is, like, sometimes, and listeners might not know this, but if you go see, like, a band that you really like, and they've got that one hit that you really like, they won't do it. They've got this, like, pride, like, we're not going to do that hit because it was too famous. And I was worried you had that with the Wyatt Burp, but no, you're still very happy to...
I Wyatt Burp everywhere. Yeah, school talks, funerals... Just a constant storm of Wyatt burping everywhere I go.
And I bet it cheers people. Like, it's impossible not to be cheered up, because I think however you feel about burps, and I personally am a fan, but however you feel, I think the cowboy element of them then makes them really enjoyable.
Oh, absolutely. Although, now you come to mention it, I'm not sure the people at the funeral did enjoy it that much.
Oh.
I thought it would cheer them up, but didn't seem to have the desired effect.
Well, I say that's on them. I don't know of any situation that
it lighten up,
work.
Funeral goers.
Yeah, exactly.
This has already taken a very dark turn for a children's podcast.
Well, hey, but listen, this is as we'll talk about, this is for people of, you say children's, but this is suitable for all ages except 100. Long story. We'll talk about that later.
Of course, yes. I forgot about your overwhelming prejudice for people who are 100.
Well, yeah, it's not a prejudice if it is based in fact and reality, which is that people who are 100 have got other... They don't need this podcast, and frankly, it's rude of them to listen to it and take away listens from other people Do you know what I mean? They've got their letter from, the royal whoever. They get a letter. People all have a big, like, you're 100, let's make you a cake that looks like a 100 or whatever. They get special things. I feel like them then listening to the podcast as well.
Yeah, at least
greedy.
the Queen had the common decency to shuffle off this mortal coil before she was 100, so she didn't have to send herself a letter.
Yeah, I think that was probably part of it. I don't think she wanted to. Because can you imagine writing yourself a letter? It'd be weird, wouldn't it?
Oh, she was
like,
always
dear me.
Every box, that woman, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Hang, can I just check? It wasn't her funeral that you did the Wyatt Burp at, was it?
No.
No, okay, few. Just because we
Although
could get in a lot of trouble on this podcast if at the royal funeral you had done a Wyatt Burp.
I think I'd be even more famous than I am now if I had done that.
Sure. I just had to check because I didn't pay attention to everybody. A lot of people attended that because it was a big event, and I just wasn't sure. Yeah, I didn't hear about it on the news, so
I was just doing it at home privately as a mark of respect.
That's lovely, and I think that is the way that it. That was a very sensible thing to do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, no. So I was just saying, this we have all ages listening to this, and I think that funerals are something that happens in life. So are a school assembly, so are weddings, and a professional like yourself has to know which of these events you need to.
I mean, a school assembly is even worse than a funeral, actually. So I'm sorry for mentioning them as well.
Yeah, that is true. It depends on what they're about, though. Doesn't it? Because sometimes you just all sing a song and then somebody might fart and it's all awkward.
Most of my school assemblies were about our deputy headmaster's golf.
Oh,
weekends. He'd talk about his golf and then he'd say, "And it's a bit like Jesus, isn't it?"
Wow.
Yeah. He said, "I got a hole in one, and getting a hole in one is a bit like Jesus." And then he'd talk about Jesus for a few minutes.
Wow, that's amazing. I don't think I ever had anyone talk about golf in ours. We just had to sing songs about harvest or whatever it was, and then I don't know, somebody from somewhere would do a poem about, I don't know, Halloween and whatever it was.
Yeah, we did a bit of that, but there was an awful lot of inappropriate golf anecdotes as well.
Wow, I feel like I missed out on all of that.
Yeah, I think he was freestyling on the way into work. What shall I talk about today? But he only had two interests in life, golf and Jesus.
But do you feel like you are now super knowledgeable about golf and that you've now gone on to become an incredible golf champion because of all this knowledge?
Well, no, because every time I watch the Open, I'm waiting to see when Jesus is coming out to play. He never does.
No, he's saving that up. That's going to be a big. I'll be for one of the PGA anniversaries, I think. Probably. Yeah, it's a bit like how the Super Bowl halftime special. They have really big guests, but then every sort of anniversary they have an even bigger guest. You see.
So it could be Jesus. Maybe next year be Jesus.
It might be. Who's to say?
That would give us all a wake up call, wouldn't it? That would make me think maybe I should have paid more attention in RE.
Well, I mean, I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think it's very important to. It's why you should pay attention to all these assemblies. You don't know what tidbits of knowledge. I know how to collect a lot of tins of beans around autumn time.
Although if Jesus did come back to Earth, I think the Super Bowl would be a bit too jazzy for him. He wasn't that kind of guy. He liked to lay pretty low. I think it would be like lawn bowls or something like that. He'd come perform at the final.
Choice.
Yeah.
I think that Winter Olympic sport where they have the brooms, where the shuffle. What do you call it?
Curling.
Curling. That's it. Where they have to sweep the floor, they have to sweep the ice before the thing, which always then means like it's a sport, but it's also like cleaning.
Yeah.
Which is strange.
No, and he'd like that because he was a very thoughtful man, wasn't he, Jesus? So.
Well, there you go. I think this is
a sport that involves cleaning. He'd like that. This is just remind me of when I used to present TV at Nickelodeon years and years ago. We used to play a game with the kids in the studio that was curling. We used to call it Curling One Out.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is good. And did everyone get that you were talking about poos?
Yes, probably. I don't think it was quite as clever as we thought it was. I think we thought we were going under the radar.
But I think everyone because surely all the listeners must know that term for pooing. You must know that curling one out.
Well, they do now.
They do now. They've learnt it. And I always, whenever I watch the Winter Olympics and it's like curling, and then you see a team of people, you just assume they're going to poo on some ice. And then that's why the other people have to brush it away because there's poo all over the ice.
That's how it started.
Yes.
That's how the brushing started.
And then the poo would have frozen, so they'd have to sort of push it away.
Yes.
See?
Of course. The origin
sure
of sport. Always interesting.
I think there's a lot in the names of sports, like skeleton, which is the one where people hurtle down the kind of ice chute head first. I'm pretty sure that comes from the fact that like people break every bone in their body by doing it because it's terrifying. That must be, yeah.
And don't even get me started on when you play games on the Nintendo Wii.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's that caused a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And the Wii remote, which you could just aim at people and then they wet themselves.
Yeah.
That's how it worked, wasn't it? That's what I assumed.
No, that was just you.
No, was that just me on there? It was very embarrassing, but I thought when it happened to everybody, it was okay. That you just point the Wii remote, press A, B, and then
instantly wet yourself.
Yeah. But it was just me. Oh, that's
sorry.
Oh, I should have been. I should have been a lot more embarrassed than I was then. I was quite. I thought everyone was joining in. Oh, this is tricky. Wow. I'd say the one that I never understood was the Xbox, because an Xbox is a box that used to be a box. That's what that means. An
Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just saying it was a box. It's now. Yeah. I don't think that's much of a boast.
No, not really. I've never actually seen an Xbox, so I suppose I couldn't because it doesn't exist.
No.
It's an Xbox.
Is a flattened box? Did a flattened box used to be a box? Is that now an Xbox?
Oh, maybe.
Or does it have to be something that was like it was a box and now is nothing?
This sounds like the sort of thing Father Christmas gives you when you've been naughty, not a.
Yeah, you've got an Xbox.
Not a desirable piece of consumerism.
Maybe it's a box with a hole cut out of it so you can put it on your head and pretend you're on telly.
Yeah.
And that's how all the games, they just tell you these games are on it, but then you have to act it out.
That's what I did at home when all my CBBC work dried up over COVID. I just got to a spare room of my own and put a box on my head.
Did you have any successful TV shows? With that? Was it anything break through? I don't know who your audience was.
There was All Over My House, where it was like a travel show, but it was all over my house.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was successful. Nobody watched it, obviously.
Oh, sure. Some of the best TV shows are ignored by
I
everyone.
think so.
And I'm going to make that sweeping statement and provide no examples.
Well, no, I based a whole career on it.
You've done very well, though. I mean, look at you now with your Wyatt burping and your ice cream flavors. You've done very, very well. So,
yeah. Although one of those things you said about me was a lie.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm going to leave it up to the listeners to guess which one.
Oh, well, it was on your Wikipedia, so I just sort of assumed.
You can't believe everything you read on Wikipedia, Tiernan.
No, well, not one. Obviously, clearly not. Especially now, not as you say, one was a lie. Do you go to are you sort of inserting lies into your Wikipedia to catch people like myself out?
Exactly, yes. To make sure now I know that you don't have a subscription to the Encyclopedia Britannica and you're not a proper researcher.
Well, that's very rude. That just because I don't have a subscription to the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Well, don't put out a podcast and with facts about people.
Is that what you have? Is that? Do I have to have that? Is that like a qualifying thing? I didn't realize.
Yeah, otherwise you're just feeding the fake news machine, aren't you, Tiernan?
Well, I mean, I've got 2 out of 3 of the facts correct, so I'm only feeding it with I'm only giving it like a snack.
When you've got a podcast called Radio Nonsense, people are expecting, extremely well conducted research.
Sure, yeah, that is the problem. Maybe I should have called it something less serious.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the radio bit, I think. Yeah, I should have gone. I don't know, Xbox silliness.
Did you hear me dropping a pen then?
Is that what that was?
Did you hear that? Well, there's a man drilling, and then I'm a fiddler. I'm always fiddling. I just can't stop. Not the music.
Not like the violin, like the small violin. Yeah.
No, I'm not like stimulating people to river dance everywhere. No, I'm just I just fiddle with things and I dropped a pen. So I'm very sorry. That's very unprofessional of me.
That's all right. Can I ask what the man drilling's got to do with the pen? Because is he like, because you sort of, I hadn't noticed the man drilling, and I don't know if we can hear it. I don't think listeners will be able to hear it. But you mentioning him and you dropped the pen, it almost like you weren't expecting him to drill, and it made you drop the pen.
Yeah. No, he's drilling out of anger. He just he's my next door neighbour, and he hates the sound of me dropping a pen. And when I do, he goes, "Oh!" and he drills the wall.
Wow, he must have a really just a lot of holes in the wall.
Yeah, we have a terrible relationship. His house is very poorly insulated.
Yeah, it must be. It's just full of holes.
Yeah, exactly.
It probably looks like cheap. Maybe lots of bug hotels. You could let a lot of little bugs sleep in there. It's good for nature.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah, like people say, but you got to do a bug hotel outside with bits of wood and that. But he's said, well, it's cold. I could just have a little bee sleeping.
Yeah, paint it yellow and sell tickets for everyone come see the world's biggest Swiss cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
They do that in Australia, don't they? Have you've been out and done the Melbourne Comedy Festival and things, haven't you?
I have not. I wish.
Oh, I thought you had. Because there's nothing to see in Australia in like every town to try and get people to come to the town. They just build a big version of something. So they'll have like the world's biggest ball of twine, the world's biggest banana, the world's biggest cockatoo.
Wow.
Yeah, go on Google and check them out. The Australian world's biggest. They've built a lot of big things, and some of them are very unimpressive.
That's amazing. There's a bit of me though that wants to build one that's ever so slightly bigger by like a millimeter, just so they have to rename it.
Just to stuff it up for them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
someone did that with the world's longest. So the world's longest place name was. Oh, I used to know how to pronounce it. How many? Clanvar Puth Gwingingith Gwindrorbeth Clantasilio Gogogoch.
Wow. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was in Wales. And so people used to come from all around to take photos of the railway station. And then so a man up the road changed the name of his field to something a bit longer than that. Just to annoy them.
Spiteful and amazing. I kind of respect it though. Yeah. Like why not? Yeah, I like that. It's that thing of like just building like the biggest ball of twine, but then just putting a little flag on top so it's slightly bigger, or just doing something really petty that goes, ha ha. You can't call it that anymore, and I win.
Imagine having a garden. You just had a garden, big garden, just full of the world's biggest things, just to spite other people.
But also, then so many people come to your garden because they wouldn't have to travel everywhere to just see one thing.
No, but then just to spite them, you'd build a massive wall around your garden so they can't even see them. And you get the Guinness Book of World Records. You get them to come around and they measure them and they go, "Yes, that is the biggest." And then you're like, "Yeah, it's in there. It's all in there, but you can't see it."
And have lots of. You can put all that. I don't really understand how it works, but I see signs for anti-climb paint, and they always say anti-climb paint is on this wall, so you can't climb it. I don't know what it does. I don't know what happens if you. I've never dared to climb it.
No, I think it takes you to. Have you seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness?
I have indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably does that. It sends you to another dimension. If you
wow.
Try and climb
so you can't climb things. Yeah. That's quite excessive. I just assumed it might be a bit slippy or would make your hands go blue or something. But this is if you've tried to climb, we're going to send you to a dimension where everyone's legs to another dimension.
It's what they deserve.
Wow.
If you climb on old Fred's garage, you deserve to be separated from your family, friends, and planet Earth that you know and love forever.
And live in a dimension where I know all waffles are made of cats or something. It'd be something that'd be slightly weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, that's what I've
they deserve.
Wow, it's quite harsh. It's a lot.
So, would you say when I come on this podcast, would you say we talk more or less nonsense than normal?
It's very tricky, actually.
I feel like I talk a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, I talk quite a lot of nonsense in every day. I spent a good hour the other day with my daughter trying to work out what the correct impression of a tiger doing a poo was.
Right.
And that was, and she reckoned it was sticking your tongue out, closing your eyes, one thumb up and going, ugh! And I'm not sure that is how a tiger would do a poo, but she was insistent. So.
But this podcast has obviously addled your mind. I'm so much less fun than that. Things I say to my kids are things like brush your teeth and stop that.
Yeah, I do say those. I say those things as well, and I say I've got. I had a brush your teeth song for a while, but apparently it's not cool anymore. But I'd sort of worked it out, like, to try and get her to brush all of her teeth like at the right. So it's little circles, round and round, little circles. But it's not. It was really cool when she was 3. Now she's 4 and nearly 5. It's not.
Oh no, no.
Stop it. So yeah,
you have to get it properly produced with.
Yeah, so I need to get a backing band.
Get Dr. Dre to produce it for you. Maybe you'll get another year or 2.
That is absolutely
Taylor Swift on the backing vocals.
Gosh, I think they'd be up for it, They're sort of keen to help the world, and particularly tired parents who want their kids to brush their teeth.
I just get my children to brush their teeth through fear. Just telling them that they're going to be in agonising pain for the rest of their lives unless they do it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good way to do it. I suppose it's a bit like how the anti-climb paint works. It's just unnecessarily vicious.
Yeah, unless you brush your teeth will disappear to another dimension.
Yeah.
And be replaced by marshmallows.
I'll swap your toothpaste with anti-climb paint. No, actually, that wouldn't work. So they wouldn't brush their teeth, and they would save themselves I'll swap all the chocolates with anti-climb paint. There'll be something. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a pot of anti-climb paint just to have it as a threat.
I think it's a very good idea. Well, listen, I mean, Ed, it's already. I feel that listeners have learnt possibly too much from this chat. But I've been sent some questions. The reason I've asked you back is I've been sent these questions. In fact, 3 questions, but we'll get to that in a minute. Before I ask you the questions that I think are pretty much for you, got to do some admin. You've done this admin before. I do appreciate that, so I'm sorry to ask you again. But I know you're aware this is an audio podcast. It's suitable. Well, all our listeners listen to it, preferably with their ears. They may also listen with their bums, their knees. We don't discriminate, however they want to do it. And I just wondered if you've got a favourite noise that you could preferably make for us, or at least describe.
It's the sound my dad makes when he's happy.
And what sound is that?
Well, it's the sound of whatever the last piece of music he heard was, and then he goes around the house singing it but he has no idea that he's doing it. I don't know if you had any relatives that used to do this, and I've picked it up as well. My wife and children notice me doing it, and I have no idea I'm doing it either. But I'd be lying in bed and I'd hear him. He'd be walking around singing I'm trying to think of it used to be the Flintstones, but nobody would know what the Flintstones is anymore. But let's say Scooby Doo. So it'd be like he'd be going around the house going doopy dooby doo doody boo doody boo, and then his brain would start to not know what the rest of the song was, and then he'd just start improvising, just going boobity boop boop ba doo ba 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 ba.
Wow.
And then you come down like 10 minutes later, go, oh, you were happy. Was I? Yeah, you were going around the house singing the Scooby-Doo theme tune for 20 minutes. No, I wasn't. He had no idea he's doing it.
Your dad sounds like a jazz legend.
Kind of, yeah.
So I think that's how a lot of jazz happens, doesn't it? Where they just start on something and then you just sort of have a go. You just
he could have been a total scat man if he'd been born in the right place in a slightly different era.
That's right. They could have just, the band would start playing and they'd just bring your dad on, and then he'd totally take it in a different direction by going off on his own path. And that's how I think a lot of jazz works.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, having listened to it for 44 years, I'd have to say nobody would pay money to listen to it.
Well, but that's because you've heard it too much.
I'm probably the person in the family who enjoys it the most, and I'm not particularly enjoying myself listening to it.
But you've heard it the most, and I think you've got to take yourself away. What would a brand new audience think, and what would they think if he was backed by like someone on the saxophone and someone on the double bass?
Maybe familiarity breeds contempt. Maybe you'd love it.
Yeah, I think I'm just saying, you got to imagine it with a kind of a swing beat and some real great jazz piano behind it, and I think he's got a sort of Miles Davis like career.
Yeah, maybe. Oh God, maybe we wasted his talents all these years. We should have got him on the road like a like a young Michael Jackson, exploited him.
Yeah, well, he'd never have done the same show twice. It would always have been different. And all you need is an audience member to like shout out what the song should be, and he'd start with that. But then who knows where it's going to go?
Yeah. Well, it normally goes into. Then sometimes you go boo.
That's the bit that everyone would look forward to.
Yeah.
That's the bit he did the boo. Yeah, that's who doesn't love that. That's that people would be waiting for that. And then of course there'd be the shows he didn't do that because he was sort of branching out. And but there'd be the legendary shows where that came up.
I'm just realizing actually because I do it, and because also it also comes with whistling. You do the same thing with whistling, and my daughter's been desperate to learn how to whistle like me, and she's just started whistling. So I've realized we've now got 3 generations. We could go on the road and be the most hated band in Britain.
It's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. You're like a family group. And different harmonies. I assume we've all got sort of.
Oh no, there won't be any harmony. Don't worry about that.
well then, this is the era for anti-harmony. People are bored of these harmonies sounding lovely. What we want is three people doing completely different.
Man
noise.
in his mid-70s, a man in his mid-40s, and a 5-year-old girl.
Yeah,
going.
Yeah. I think music has different, some people listen to calming music to chill themselves out. Some people listen to music to kind of stimulate them while writing. Your music could be the sort of music that people listen to when they want to feel really happy about when they don't listen to music.
Yes.
So like when they're sick of listening to music, they listen to your music. I suppose when they're sick of silence, they listen to your music and it makes them really happy to hear silence.
That is a good idea. And or they'd just be happy that they didn't grow up in my house. Like, I'm glad I didn't have to lie in bed as a teenager trying to have a lie-in while my dad was walking around in the kitchen downstairs.
Yeah, but you're making people feel grateful for their situation.
But it is a noise I came to love. So it is one of my favourite noises.
Well, I look forward to your dad's first EP, his first single. Hopefully, be on Spotify soon.
Yes, yeah. I'll get the same producer that you're gonna
yes,
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre, definitely. He's not a doctor. I should just let the children know he's not a doctor. Being pointed out, that was the lie on his.
He does offer you any medicine. Just say no.
Yeah, just don't. He's not a doctor. He's a sound doctor. Anyway, look. Ed, the other bit of admin I have to check with you is if there are any rude words that you're not going to say. This show, as I'm sure you know, we mentioned it earlier, is suitable for people of all ages, not 100. Not going to go into that again. But I just want to check to make sure this show completely friendly, family friendly. Are there any rude words that you're not going to be saying?
Yes, well, as you know, that I've worked in children's entertainment for many years, and so I'm very good at not using rude words, and so I know that. There's on no occasion should you ever use the word tunnocks. So I won't be using the word tunnocks.
My goodness. No. I'm guessing that was probably first on the list whenever you host it, it was on a little thing on the wall just saying make sure this is
absolutely. Yeah. It's sort of, you wouldn't want to be I don't know, if there was somebody commentating on some sport on news rounds, say, "Oh, right in the tunnocks." You don't want that kind of language.
No, it's horrendous.
And it goes without saying, obviously the phrase tunnocks tea cake is completely out of bounds.
Well, of course. Yeah, made doubly worse by the tea cake element, which is
it's really appalling. Yeah. So I won't be subjecting any of your listeners to either of those words.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you not saying tunnocks tea cakes or indeed tunnocks, and I definitely won't.
I won't say tunnocks or tunnocks tea cakes.
Yeah, it's a horrendous language, and I don't want us to get cancelled. So
absolutely, by some tunnocks out there.
Well, that's some absolute tea cake. Well, yeah. So Ed, listen, we've had this question sent. We've had 3 questions actually from Amelie, who says she is aged 1 farting hippo, and then put in brackets. Sorry,
that was a great age.
It is a very
downhill from there.
Well, I don't want to ruin this because Amelie put she's aged one farting hippo, and then in brackets, but I'm actually 100. Ha 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 ha!
Oh,
Which is awful, and
yeah.
really we shouldn't. If that is true, we shouldn't. I shouldn't ask you any of her questions.
Which
She
is
shouldn't
more
even listen to
likely?
this. I don't know. I'm not sure that a
I'm not sure
100-year-old would
either. So
admit
let's
to
roll
be.
with it. Let's roll with it.
Yeah,
What's
because
the
I don't think a
question?
100-year-old would admit to being 100.
Yeah.
It's too. Yeah. So well, she's got 3 questions. So I think let's just rattle through these. Would you like them one at a time? Would you like all 3 at once? Would you like me to read them backwards? How would you prefer?
Let's
To hear
go
these
one at a
questions?
time. Let's go the
Okay,
conventional
sensible,
route.
very sensible. Okay, question number 1 from Amelie is why does cheese smell?
Ah, yes. Well, it's all to do with science, obviously. If you want to find out why cheese smells, I would recommend you, and you should do this, all of you, get a plastic bag, fill it with milk, and then find one of your dad's shoes and push the bag of milk, one of those small bags, like a dog poop bag, push it into your dad's shoe and leave it there for about 5 days, and then take it out and smell it, and then you'll know why cheese smells.
Well, is that how cheese is made?
Well, it'll give you a good idea of why it smells. Yeah, so you should do that experiment. You should definitely do it. Do it now, kids.
That's
Get
I
a
mean
bag,
that's
fill it with milk, put it on your dad's shoes.
That's I mean it's incredible. People can do a live experiment while listening to this podcast,
Yeah,
and I suppose
yeah.
they can pause it, maybe unpause it in 5 days, and
It's what I'm here for, to educate the nation. And as I said, I've worked in children's entertainment for many years. So, in fact, I'd say, kids, if there's one thing you should do this year as an experiment, it is to fill a small bag with milk, tie it up, and stick it in one of your dad's shoes for 5 days.
Are they able to experiment? Can they go for different types of milk? I'm guessing cow's milk probably best. Maybe goat's milk, sheep's milk.
Yes,
Second best.
maybe goat's milk in your mum's shoe.
Milk?
Yeah, soy milk in your brother's shoe.
Hmm.
Yeah, different milks, different shoes, different members of the family.
Yes, I was going to add different types of shoes. I'd assume sports shoes particularly good.
Yeah, but remember to write your results down in an exercise book and show your workings.
Wow, that is. Do you know what I like, Ed? Is that the Amelie asked this big question, and you haven't given an answer, but you've enabled the listeners to find their own answers. And
yes,
I think
and that's what educating the nation is all about, Tiernan. It's about empowering the children to find out for themselves.
Yes, well, well, listen, I'm going to do that once we get off this call. I don't live with my dad, so I'm going to have to travel to his house. I'm not sure how I'm going to sneak in.
You'll be able, on the way to Travin's your house. You'll be able to work out which was my house because you'll hear a man inside going boop boop ba doo dee doo ba 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 da da boo. Oh, that's Ed's house.
Until he puts his shoe on and goes, ah!
Edward, what's this in my shoe?
That is the special Ed put milk in my shoe remix.
You know how cheese smells by now.
Yes. But it doesn't stop. Doesn't mean you should stop experimenting. You know that the whole thing with science is that you keep trying and you keep seeing all the results. There's no sort of finite, definite answer, is there? With science, it's all about experimenting and
exactly. Yes.
So even if you do know how cheese smells,
just keep doing it.
Yeah, and because it smells different. Cheese smells different seasons as well. Like some cheeses, I remember being told this in a shop by a clever person who worked in the shop, saying like, "Oh, this cheese is particularly nice this season, or this cheese is particularly soft this season." And so I assume it's the same with putting milk in a shoe. Putting milk in a shoe in December, it's going to give you a different smell to putting milk in a shoe.
It most certainly is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do it in the heat wave.
Yeah, in the really horrible.
Particularly do it then.
Yeah, that's going to provide a really quite amazing smell with some very powerful answers and results. Wow, well that's a great answer. Thank you, Ed. I
glad to be of service.
I feel like this is up to the listeners now to discover how that works. Listen, Amelie's second question is. She's asked some big questions here, but this one is pretty big. Mm-hmm. She's asked, if my butt exploded, how would I poop?
Right. Well, I'd say that that would be the least of your worries, and you should be seeking urgent medical treatment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but there's still... That's fair, but even with the medical treatment, you might need to poo. It's still...
I just think you're going to have... If your bum has just exploded, I don't think you're going to be worrying about that too much.
Sure, I mean, it's possible it exploded because you need to poop so much and you hadn't pooped that it just sort of went, everything's going to come out.
Yeah. Like that book about the dinosaur. You read that? No, yeah. Dinosaur That Pooped Christmas.
Right, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know that. Is that one of the...
It's we bought it for our kids. They loved it. And then obviously the guy... It was a great idea, but he had one idea and he really rolled with it. So then there was Dinosaur That Pooped a Rainbow, Dinosaur That Pooped a Birthday Cake, I think. I think he's on book 25 now. He's got the Dinosaur That Pooped the House of Commons, the Dinosaur That Pooped the Quantum Theory of Everything.
Wow. Is this one of the Brontes that wrote this? Was it Charles Dickens? Who is this one of the classics?
It was Dickens, yes.
It was Dickens, yeah, of course. So it's a poor orphan dinosaur who, despite a series of unlucky things, eventually poops out a rainbow and that's fun.
But the good thing was that it inspired the Liberal government to set up the foundations of the welfare state.
Yeah.
So
these books sound very important. I've missed those.
Thanks, pooping dinosaur.
Yeah, I have to. Great expect pooptions. No, it doesn't work, does it? Well, look, I do feel, Ed. You were very direct, and your answer to the first question was very helpful. I think, I'm sure listeners are going to all try it. But your answer, I feel like you're dodging the actual answer to the second question. You're just saying if your butt exploded, you'd be worried about the fact that your butt has exploded.
Yes.
But Amelie here seems very cool with her butt exploding, and is just worried how she's going to poop.
How she's going to poop. Stop eating.
Which,
to be honest, if your bum's exploded, you're going to be stopping eating pretty soon anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, I would wonder is, if you did that, your butt exploded, if you did poop, would it be like a scattergun effect? Would it sort of fire out, or would it just sort of fall out because you've got no bum?
Yeah, like a skeleton. Well, at least you could. Well, it would speed things up, wouldn't it? Speed up the digestive process.
Yeah, it just sort of all just. Because is it mice that just sort of wee as they run along?
Yes, horrible things. Yeah, I've got them in my cellar. Yeah, they do that. They poo and wee everywhere when they're just completely uncontrollably. They've got no bladder control whatsoever.
You say it's horrible. I think it's quite efficient.
A bit like you when you're on Nintendo.
Yeah, but that's it. But this is the thing, right? Sometimes you're in a rush to get somewhere, but you really need a wee. You've got to then find somewhere to wee. Or poo, and then you've got to get on your way, and then you're late. Whereas a mouse is just like, I'm going to keep going and just get rid of this. And I feel like there's something very efficient and time-saving about doing that.
Well, they're busy, yes. Lots to do. Busy.
Well, exactly. Loads of cereal to nick and things to chew holes in. And they've
got a to-do list as long as their arm. I mean, they've got very short little arms, but you know what I mean.
That's true. It's true, but their writing is quite small. So
Tiny.
Yeah, really tiny. So, I'm just saying if your butt exploded and you pooed, like it just sort of fell out, then you could just keep going. Like if you needed to poo on the way to school, it wouldn't matter. It just sort of do it on the way.
Oh, God. What a world to live in that would be.
So with that, okay, well, I'll refer back to your original answer then is you wouldn't worry about pooping because your butt had exploded.
Yeah. Let's go with the original answer.
Okay, that's fine. We'll stop thinking about what happened if poop just fell out. And well, listen, the third question from Amelie. This is the third and final one, and I should say it relates quite well to the first question that you had.
Oh, good.
So Amelie has put this is all in capitals, so I'm going to read it as it's written. What came first, Feety cheese or cheesy feet?
Oh, that is a good question. Well, again, I would refer you to science. So it's always best with a question like this, think about it scientifically. So What came first, fish or the fishy smell? Well, the fish, obviously. The fish came first. So the cheese must have come before the cheesy smell. Yes. So the cheese would have been swimming around with the fish in the primordial soup during the origins of life on Earth. And that's scientific. We've proved that now with science. So the cheese came first.
Cheese came first.
Before the cheese, like the fish, evolved, grew legs, started walking around.
Yes, and then feet copied cheese.
Yes, exactly.
Thinking that's a great smell.
Yeah,
that's how I want to smell.
Exactly. The cheese came first.
Yes, it said,
and that's why to this day, that's why the cheese farmers are running around in the field with the big stick trying to clobber.
Yes, it does happen.
A Wensleydale that's skipping around their fields.
Very hard job.
The Wensleydales, they're always skipping, aren't they? They're always so happy, the Wensleydales.
They're always so happy. They're so, because they're sort of crumbly, light, it's just sort of enables
not care in the world.
And
then the Red Leicesters, they're incredibly easy to catch with big fat calves just thumping around the place.
Yes, that's exactly it.
That's why there's so much more of it in the shops. You see, cheddar is very, very easy to catch. A very lazy cheese.
Yes, that is true.
And barely get itself out of the house. Just steps out the front door, one wallop over the head, bang. So the supermarket shelves are stuffed full of it.
It's a smoked cheese. It's always sunbathing. You just sort of get it.
Parmesan. Yeah, Parmesan is impossible because Parmesan is always on a little Vespa, isn't it? Scooting around the place. Yes. Very hard to catch. That's why it's so expensive.
Very tricky. Very tricky. There's a lot more skill to cheese farming than people think.
A lot more. Savage. It's a savage business.
There's little mini baby bells. They roll away. You have to get a big net, catch them, especially hills. You have to get them.
That's why they have the trawlers for the baby bills, don't they? The baby bells.
Yes. Yes, and the baby bills as well. Yes, yeah, it's very tricky. I would say that Amelie. The weird thing about Amelie's question is that she says, feety cheese or cheesy feet is feety cheese the cheese that you get between your toes, or is it just cheese that is in the shape of... I don't know what that means.
Feety cheese.
She said, what came first, feety cheese or cheesy feet? We know what cheesy feet are. They're feet that smell like cheese. Is feety cheese that feet cultivate, or cheese that looks like...
I thought feety cheese was... I assumed it was the those little bits that you get in the side of your toenails and things.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah.
But when you smell them and you go, oh, what's that smell? Well, that's the cheese, and the cheese came first.
Yes, right. That's good. I just wanted to clarify that. So thank you. That makes an awful lot.
That's science.
Science. It's so much science in today's podcast, and I thank you.
Well, as I said, I'm here to educate.
I feel you have. I feel you have, and I feel if any of the listeners do carry out Ed's incredible experiment ideas, please let us know the results.
Please do. They will.
Yes, I hope they do. And listen, Ed, thank you for answering that. Not one, but not even two, but three questions, not four, three. And I appreciate that. Amelie should have sent one. It's quite cheeky, really, but she's 100 years old. How's she going to know? She's probably not going to listen to the podcast. She breaks all the rules.
That's probably why she's taking liberties. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. 100-year-olds just drive me bonkers. Have you got a busy rest of the day? You're Wyatt burping all over the place, or
Yeah. Going to help my uncle with a bit of cheese farming as well.
Nice. What's he trying to catch?
Oh, he's seen some particularly cheeky looking Edam.
Oh, that is hard.
Yeah, just he spotted them cycling around. So we're going to try and jump out on a cycle path and accost a few of them.
Excellent. Well, very good luck. Very good luck to you and indeed your uncle on that.
Back to my day. We didn't have Netflix,
Thanks so much to Ed Petrie for returning to the show once again to deliver his wisdom and answer Amelie's question, even if she is actually 100, which would then mean she couldn't hear the answer. And good luck to everyone putting all the cheese in your soggy earwax bins, grown-ups' shoes. I hope that goes very well, and do let us know the science experiment results. Amelie, I hope you liked Ed's theories to your questions, if you could hear them, and if you didn't enjoy the answers, then do send all your complaints on a soon-to-explode butt, as that way it'll explode before it arrives, and I won't have to read it. Thank you. And of course, if you out there want to send in a question that needs answering for this show, then you no longer have to wait for the twice-yearly email pig to arrive in your area. No, you just need to get your soggy earwax bins, grown-ups, to help you email us at podcast@comedyclubforkids.co.uk. Do check out our live shows at comedyclubforkids.co.uk for when we're near you, and grab our t-shirts and book at comedyclubforkids.store. Now, while you were listening to that, I moved my calendar and clock round to the exact time the Pod Goblin arrives, and, like you have to, I'm hiding in a hedge with just my arm out, waving my official podcastable contraption licence, and I'll begin making the noise to call him out. Pod, 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 pod. Poddy, 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 pod, pod, pod. Pod, 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 pod. Good morning, everyone. I've arrived. Hello, Pod Goblin. What pods do you have for my ears to enjoy this, definitely 12th of Jultember? Well, hang on. I've got a really spiky one. Hang on 1 second. That was disgusting. Lovely. Well, I've got the Comedy Club for Squids Radu Squid Sense show, which this time is all about when you hide as a rock and then a tortoise sits on your head. No, I couldn't think of anything worse. That sounds terrible. I've got the true crime podcast, What Happened to Claire's Crisps, which is the episode where they find out someone has also taken Steve's crisps. Oh, that sounds exciting. There's All Filler, where they rank all the sandwich fillings, and Cough Menu, where every show someone different coughs on the hosts. And, of course, the very popular show Grimble Loves Chairs, which is about Grimble, who interviews a different chair every week. What do you want? Oh, lovely. Well, I'll tell you what, Grimble Loves Chairs sounds great. Can I get a few episodes of that, or do you only have the one? Only one, I'm afraid. It was too cold to carry more than that. As you know, they'll just freeze in the bag that I carry it. Hang on a second. It's not normally this cold in Jultember. My bogey froze. It usually sizzles and fries in the heat so I can have it in a sandwich later. That is disgusting. Let me check with the dog of time, who should be walking around woofing the time and date any second now. Oh, no. You've tricked me! How dare you! No podcast for you ever again! Well, that's a shame. But you see, it's just so much easier going on the podcast sites, isn't it, to get your podcasts and to leave a review. That's what I'm just going to do now to find out which chair Grimble has interviewed this week. Think yourself lucky you didn't live in the olden days when I had to go through with that sort of thing every single time. Oh, I have to go. The internet trumpeter is coming round, and I need to buy 3 cups of Wi-Fi so I can load up this episode in time. See you next week. Bye! You have been listening to Comedy Club for Kids Presents. Radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense, radio nonsense. It's the end.